Welcome to the Brian Buffini Show, where we explore the mindsets, motivation, and methodologies of success. Here's your coach, Brian Buffini.
Well, the top of the morning to you, and welcome to the Brian Buffini Show. The guest I have for you today, I met him 31 years ago. I met his book 35 years ago, and it was a book that changed my business and changed my life. It's called The E-Myth Revisited. And I, as a guy who's written 3 small business books, The E-Myth Revisited is, in my opinion, the greatest small business book ever written. When I give it to people, I tell them it's the Bible for small business. And Michael Gerber, who lives in Carlsbad, who's right down the street from me, and we have not touched base in 30 years, which is just kind of nuts because we've been crossing paths. So, Michael Gerber, it is a long overdue pleasure to have you on the show today.
It's a delight, Brian. And yes, 30 years is a long time not to see each other, especially when we're crossing each other on the freeway all the time.
Right. Well, we're doing it today, and I'm sure it'll be the first of many. One of the things that's happened with COVID, it's given me a chance to not only reconnect with some people, but it's given me a chance to connect with some people I've had a desire to. And so this was, like I said, I had my assistant reach out to your folks, and I'm delighted we could do this today. So I want to kind of dive in. We've got some very exciting things to talk about as far as what you're doing today and the new directions of all the stuff you got going on. But I love to talk to people as if they've never heard a word. Talk to people and explain to people what the actual E-myth is. What is the entrepreneurial myth as defined?
Well, the entrepreneurial myth is so transparent the minute you hear it and understand it. It's the fact that most people who go into business aren't entrepreneurs. They're what I've come to call technicians suffering from an entrepreneurial seizure. In short, they don't start a business to create something great. They start a business to get rid of the boss. Mm-hmm. So you've had folks working for you doing it, and they're doing it, and they're doing it, and they ultimately they say, why am I doing this for Brian? I could be doing this for me. And they go off and start their own deal, doing what they were doing for you for themselves, with the picture in their mind that now they're going to be able to take home all the money. In other words, they don't have to split it with you. Now they can do their own thing in their own way, et cetera, and so forth and so on. And it's a disaster. Mm-hmm. So that's the myth. The myth is that they're entrepreneurs because they've started their own business. Right. The reality is something significantly different than that.
Right. And we know the current environment, Michael, is probably, for me anyway, I'm in America 35 years, and I believe this is the most challenging small business environment ever. You know, obviously, I've never lived in an America where a small business wasn't allowed to open its doors, or a small business wasn't allowed to take care of customers, or a small business wasn't allowed to do its basic daily functions or freedoms. And we know that this too shall pass to some degree, and we're going to get past this pandemic. But there's going to be a carnage left in its wake that is beyond what's normal. And we both know the vast majority of small businesses already fail. And now you have a circumstance like this. So it's probably one of the reasons why I reached out to you, because I feel like so many people are in need of this help. What is the fatal assumption people make that you talk about in the E-Myth, that when they get into a business, they make these assumptions and then they go open up their own business?
Well, the fatal assumption, for example, choose real estate because you know that market.
Right.
The fatal assumption is that if I know how to sell real estate, I can start a business selling real estate. Right. And effectively, they believe that just the fact of knowing how to do the work enables them to run a business doing that work.
Right.
And the reality is selling real estate is only a very small part of the true real estate business,
Right.
the business of real estate.
Right.
So the whole business of real estate becomes the question and becomes the problem.
Mhm.
But let me say something to what you just said, because it's said to me now over the past year, obviously, and more so, more frequently, that because of COVID, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, there's a real problem on the street. Small businesses are suffering because they're being legislated out of business, and on and on and on and on.
Right.
The truth about that is that last year, now I'm talking about the year before the year of COVID,
Yep.
there were over 500,000 small companies that shut their doors permanently.
Right.
The year before that, identically the same. The year before that, the year before that. So understand that the COVID reality is simply another reason for small businesses to fail.
Right.
Small businesses go out of business regularly.
Yeah, I feel like it's a magnifying glass. Yeah, I feel like COVID's a magnifying glass, right? It's been a magnifying glass on people's health, on people's marriages, on people's finances. You know, the Cheesecake Factory 1 week into COVID shut down 300 stores. Don't tell me they knew they had a sucky business model. They knew they had stores that weren't making money, and they used it as an excuse to go, boom, we're closing down 1 week in. 1 week in, nobody was making those kind of decisions. So, right. So I do think it does that. And I think the power is that you pull back the veil. Owning your own business, it sounds great. People get into real estate. Why did you become a realtor? Well, I just love houses. And I just love people, and I go,
I love how I love people.
Yeah, right. It's like, and that's because you haven't had any customers yet.
or I love people and I love houses.
Yes, yeah, right.
Those are the two reasons. Yeah.
And if you're not careful, you'll hate people and hate houses if you don't do it right. So let's tear back beyond it, right? The COVID's is the expansion. It's the magnifier to that accelerated for many people. But there's 500,000 businesses going out of business every year who are kind of fairly smart people. A lot of them very hardworking people.
Wait a second.
Yeah.
Wait a second. You just said something that, again, I have to challenge.
Okay.
You said very smart people. Please. Most people aren't very smart people. Most people will never be very smart people. In order to become a very smart person, you have to go to work to become that. And I know, and now hear me, I've been mentoring small business owners for over 40 years. Thousands upon hundreds of thousands of small business owners. The problem in their business isn't their business. The problem in their business is them. And so in my key frustrations workshops that I used to do regularly with 40, 50, 60 small business owners in the room, the very first thing I would say is, I'm going to make you very, very uncomfortable here, because I'm going to be saying some things to you you don't want to hear. Every single one of you can tell me you've got a problem in your business, and one of you has a people problem, one of you's got a money problem, one of you's got a marketing problem, one of you's got a sales problem, this problem, that problem, this problem, that problem. And when we got all done with it, key frustrations, every one of you will express essentially the same frustrations with a little more emphasis from one to the other. But the reality is, while those are frustrations, they aren't the reason you're frustrated. The reason you're frustrated is because of you. You're the problem. You were the problem.
Yeah.
You are the problem. And by the end of this seminar, you'll realize you will always be the problem until you do something different.
Right.
So that's the problem in small business, the people who own them.
Right.
Of course, that's the problem in our lives, the people who live them.
Yeah. And if we just, like I say, this whole dynamic, and I want to dive into this whole dynamic of the technician, because so many people are just closed-minded in, I just got to be good at what I do. I just got to make the best widget. I got to provide the best service. I got to bake the best pies. The great baking story in the book. And the dynamic is, and as we're in the personal development business, we're in the training business, the skill development business. Most people aren't that open to change. They're not that open to grow until they get their butt handed to them a few times, And so, like you say, they get into these businesses. They're good at this one thing, and then they tend not to be that open to make the kind of changes it takes to be a great business owner. And I tell people, we have a thing called a real estate career path, which is someone starts out as a licensee, and then they become a producer, and then they become a professional. And the professional is the business owner. And I tell people all the time, I became a really good realtor, and I was a crap business owner. And you're right. And then I had to learn how to be, and it was through hard knocks. And then really you get hurt enough to become a good business owner, and then do the same thing. When I formed Buffini Company to coach and train people, I started out, I was a really good speaker. We had a really good system, but I was a crap business owner in the coaching business. And so there's a certain humility, there's a sense of experience, and then you really got to go to work, right?
Got to go to work. We have defined a path.
Mm-hmm.
You talked about a path. You're essentially saying first you're this, then you're this, then you're that. I've defined a path, and I call it the eightfold path. So the eightfold path resides at the heart of everything E-Myth, everything Gerber, worldwide.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll describe the path very simply by saying, first, I've got a dream. Second, it's got a vision. Third, I've got a purpose. Fourth, I've got a mission. So dream, vision, purpose, and mission, they're different than each other. Mm-hmm. The dream is absolutely critical. It sets the foundation for your vision. Your vision is absolutely critical. It sets the foundation for your purpose. And your purpose is absolutely critical because it creates the need for a mission. And the mission is absolutely critical because until you have one, you're never going to go beyond doing it, busy, which is a crapshoot. It always dies.
Right.
Now, the next 4 steps are the key to the process of business development. And the first is what I call the job. And the job is the client fulfillment system. Mm-hmm. The second is the practice. And the practice is the franchise prototype with the lead generation system, the lead conversion system, and the client fulfillment system. Mm. The next is the business. And the business is nothing other than up to 7 turnkey practices. Lead generation, lead conversion, client fulfillment, practice number 1. Lead generation, lead conversion, client fulfillment, practice number 2. So real estate agent number 1, real estate agent number 2, real estate agent number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, number 7 is a business. Mm-hmm. It's a brokerage. The final step is the enterprise. And the enterprise is nothing other than up to 7 turnkey businesses. And up to 7 turnkey businesses is 49 turnkey practices. Mm-hmm. So get it.
Yep.
It's the system, stupid. It's the system, stupid. Yep. This is how you do it. This is how you do it. This is how you do it. And you do it identically the very same way every single time, just like McDonald's.
Yeah, no, this is great. And let me ask a dumb question. And there are dumb questions, as we both know. Where a lot of people get confused, I've seen in the application, is the difference between the vision and the mission. And
let me describe what they are.
Yeah.
Very, very clearly. First, let me describe what the dream is. The dream is the great result you intend to produce. Mm-hmm. So in 1977, at the founding of my company, the Michael Thomas Corporation, interestingly, the same year as McDonald's, as Apple. In 1977, I said, my dream is to transform the state of small business worldwide. Mm. So I set out to create a worldwide phenomenon. The first business development firm ever created, the first small business coaching company ever created. So I started out in 1970. So that was a dream. I had a vision. My vision was to invent the McDonald's of small business consulting services.
Wow.
See the store, see the store, see the store. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So suddenly, I now converted my dream, which is the great result I'm going to produce, into the media through which I was going to produce it. The McDonald's of small business consulting services. What in the world is the McDonald's of small business consulting services? It's a turnkey methodology through which the store operates every single time, every day, in the very same way.
Right.
The third was my purpose. My purpose was that every small business owner could be as successful as a McDonald's franchisee if they follow my paradigm.
Mm-hmm.
And so if they internalize my methodology, they would, in fact, become as successful as a McDonald's, and some would become as successful as McDonald's itself.
Nice.
And finally, my mission was to invent the business development system upon which my dream, my vision, and my purpose depended upon.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see, I have a dream, I have a vision, I have a purpose, I have a mission.
It's clean as.
And when someone gets that, and it takes people time to get that, Brian.
Yeah.
But when they get that, when they absolutely do that work, what is my dream? Well, I'm not sure what my dream is. Well, my dream is to make some money. Well, my dream is to be rich. Well, my dream is to have a house in whatever. Or my dream is to have a swimming pool.
Right.
Shut up. You understand?
Right.
You understand, right?
Yeah,
Just
sure.
shut the hell up.
Yeah, that's an outcome, baby.
Right. Come on. We're talking about a dream.
Yeah.
We're talking about Steve Jobs. We're talking about Brian Buffini. We're talking about a dream. We're talking about something bigger than life. Mm-hmm. We're talking about a legacy. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I'm saying every life is a legacy. It's either a stupid legacy, or it's a moderately successful legacy, or it's a legacy of grand design. Mm-hmm. But our life is meant to be lived that way. You got it. Of course you got it.
Well, I do. I mean, you're taking me back to the very day of writing the mission of changing the entire real estate industry, and you know what it meant to be perceived by the customer and what it meant for the individual. The average real estate agent, even to this day, makes $30,000 in gross commissions. And we have 22,000 members that average over 300,000. And I, as you're talking to me right now, it's visceral to me, Michael. And here's the thing. I'll tell you what I am is I'm a guy who applies things. I've read this book. I read this book at least once a year for the first 20 years of my business. And I became fanatical about something that I was not fanatical about, which was systems. Because I didn't realize that systems, because I'm not a technical person. And many people, when they hear systems today, they think it's technology. But systems are the promise keepers. Systems are the trust builders. Systems are the foundation. And it sounds impersonal. There's so many people in business, they're relational, and they want to be relational in business. And I teach a relational system. But if you're not consistent in that relationship building, you're a flake. If you're not consistent, if you're not systematic, people can't count on you, right? And so, what I hear you, and it's kind of what's happening for me. Just so you know, listening to this, obviously I've been blessed, and we have changed the whole real estate business, right? We trained 3 million realtors in the last 25 years in 50 countries, but it's bringing up tremendous emotion for me because I live this. And anybody listening to this today, whether you've had the dream, maybe you've launched the dream without having this stuff together. Guess what? You can take time out and refigure it. You're busy right now. You can take time out, start over. What was the dream? Why in the hell did you start this in the first place? What is the vision? What's the purpose? What's the mission? And then so it's so real. Let me get your thoughts. I'd like to hear straight from the master himself. When you think of systems and systemization, what does that mean to you? And what's ultimately the benefit for someone to really buy into that in the biggest way possible?
When I think of systems, Brian, I think of them in identically the same way as you do, though you may not know that yet. I think of simply how we do it here. How we do it here, how we do everything here, how I make love to my wife, how I kiss my kids goodnight, how I. Our lives are a complete texture of how we've lived them. So how we live them is the most important thing we could possibly ask ourselves, if we're ever going to hope to produce something beyond belief. I'll give you a perfect example. My partner is Mark Harris. Mark Harris has been married 31 years. Mark has 13 children.
Oh, boy.
Mark made a commitment one day, about 30 years ago, that he would have breakfast with his children every morning. You hear this? Breakfast with his children every morning, he and his wife. He made that commitment 30 years ago. Mark has kept that commitment for 30 years. Mark made a commitment he would celebrate the Sabbath every Saturday for the rest of his life. Mark and his family celebrate Saturdays, Sabbath, every day, every week, every month, every year. Imagine that. That's a system. It's a system of commitment. It's a system of strategy. It's a system of love. It's a system born out of who am I? Why am I here? So I'd love to say, if we're born in the image of God, and it said we're born in the image of God, it means we're born to create. Well, if every human on the planet for all time, born in the image of God, is born to create, and we've never been taught how to do that, what an opportunity that you and I have. I mean, it goes beyond belief, Brian, when you think about it. And that lives in me every day.
Well, I'm going to tell you a little story. I'm going to tell you a story, and I'm going to tell it on this broadcast that almost no one's ever heard. And I think maybe my wife has heard this story, but I'm going to tell it to you because it'll give you one more little juice for, the McDonaldizing of what you're talking about and the systemizing of what you're talking about. And, Ray Kroc took his hits in movies and The Founder and all this stuff. So I come to America. I'm a house painter's son. I know nobody. I got to make a few bucks. I go down to this design shop. I let them know I know how to do, some finer things in the painting business, gold leaf and wallpaper and this and that and the other. And they said, okay. So they gave me a little job, and I did a little job. And then I got another job, and I had a little motor scooter. So I get invited to do this property. It's a guest home in a place called Fairbanks Ranch. I don't know Fairbanks Ranch from any other place. And every day I show up and I'm working in this guest house. It was the nicest house I'd ever been in. And the main house was somewhere up the hill, and I couldn't see it and didn't go near it. So about 2 days in, this lady comes down, very attractive lady, and she says, I hear you're from Ireland. I go, yeah. She goes, I bet you love a cup of tea. I said, I do love a cup of tea. So she comes down at lunchtime with a cup of tea. The pot's a certain way, the silverware is a certain way, the china's a certain china cup, and a little ham sandwich. She goes, I know Irish people like a ham sandwich. Boom. We have a chat. I go back to working. Every day for 2 weeks at 12 o'clock, exactly at 12 o'clock, this lady arrived down with the silver tray, china cup, ham sandwich, and we talked for half an hour. I finally said to her, I said, I got to tell you, I'm kind of curious. I drove up the wrong way to the house this morning, and the house is enormous. And I said, what do you do? And she goes, my husband was in the restaurant business. And it was Joan Croc. And I said, you do the same thing every day at the exact same time. She goes, that's the way Ray liked it. And she goes, it made for a good business and it made for a good life. Joan Croc made me a cup of tea and a sandwich every day.
Oh, my goodness.
12 o'clock, a 19-year-old immigrant house painter. I didn't know where I was. I didn't know who I was working for, but I've never told anybody that story. But that lady was phenomenal.
Goodness.
But it was the same every day. It looked the same on the tray.
My goodness.
And you know what? In Fairbanks Ranch at the time, a lot was about $2 million. They had 12 lots. So it paid the bills too. Systems pay the bills, baby.
Brian.
Yeah.
Yeah. Systems enable you to keep your word.
Yeah.
Think about it.
Yeah.
Systems enable you to keep your word.
Right.
And if we don't keep our word, who are we?
Right.
So there you go. It provides the integrity of everything we do. So that's my take on what a system is. I'm not a technology guy. I'm not a systems guy. I'm a life guy.
Right.
So how do I keep my promise? How do I keep my promise? How do I keep my promise?
I love it. For those who maybe are new and who are about to run out and get this ebook, book, I'd love to tantalize them a little bit with these three concepts: the entrepreneur, the manager, the technician. I mean, I know this is classic Gerber stuff, but here I think it's still a mystery to people. People fail. People go bankrupt. They have pain in their life. They have pain in their children. They lose their dream because they don't know the difference between the three. Maybe you can just give us the overview of.
Well, they're so obvious once you see it.
Yeah.
The entrepreneur is the leader. The entrepreneur is the creator. The entrepreneur is what Walt Disney called the Imagineer.
Mm-hmm.
The entrepreneur is the one who makes it happen.
Mm-hmm.
The manager is the one who makes certain it happens in the right way. Mm-hmm. And the technician is the one who does the work. Mm-hmm. So the leader creates it, the manager officiates over it, and the technician produces the result. Mm-hmm. That relationship is critical to a successful company, but that relationship is critical to a successful life. Mm. And that's really the most important thing, Brian, because when you speak, when you just told me that story, and I'm so delighted and thrilled and honored that you shared that story with me and you'd not shared it with many people before. What an incredible story. Joan Croc. What an incredible story. You got to share that with everybody tomorrow. You got to just start sharing that around the world. But we're going to be doing some serious work together, Brian.
Yeah.
You and in the new E-Myth are going to be doing some absolutely stunningly serious work together, because we're absolutely committed to working with the best of the best of the best of the best, who are E-Myth centric, who understand the story, understand why and how it works, understand the meaning of it, the purpose of it, the drive of it, the religion of it, the passion of it, the lifeblood of it. That's what's so critical about this whole thing. To technologize the system is simply something you do because it's got to be done. But if you don't understand it and interpret it and internalize it the way you've just described it, you're missing the whole point.
Right. And like for my kids will attest to this. Like a little food market opened up near where we live. And I walked in and it had all these cool things, and the gal behind the counter was so nice. And I asked her for some supplements, you know, like the vitamin C type things. We were going to a tournament. My kids had a little sniffle. And she was so afraid of sounding like a salesperson. And she goes, I don't want to push anything on you. I know these are 99 cents, but this $5 thing is really great. But I just don't want to be this pushy salesperson. And I turned to her and I said, honey, if you don't get this thing down, you're going to be closing the doors on this place. I said, you're doing me a service. Yes. You're doing me a service. You're helping me help my family. And I didn't call her honey. That's what I remember. But I remember going away from that store going, she's doomed. She's doomed. And a couple of months, and I told my kids, she's doomed. And she probably has a couple of months free rent to start with. She negotiated into her lease and yada, yada, yada. But she's doomed. She won't gleefully promote what she has that can help me get healthy because she's afraid of being perceived as a salesperson.
Yeah.
And I said, she has the answers in there for all of us to feel healthier, but she's embarrassed about it because she's self-conscious about being perceived as a salesperson or a pushy salesperson. And a couple of months later, I kid you not, that store was closed, and they go, Dad, you're right. And I go, I have no satisfaction in being right. I go, that was the death of a dream, and that kills me. And that's why I think the E-Myth systems are so critical, because you're willing to tell people, hey, you're very candid. You'll tell people you're going to fail. You're candid because, and there's so much soft soaping in our world today. Nobody's willing to actually affect somebody with the truth. That if you don't have the creative side, if you don't manage it, run it the right way, and if you don't then have the producers that get it done, if you don't have systems to support it, if you don't have the job and the practice and the business and the enterprise, you're done. You're done before you start.
Of course. So what am I going to say to people? I've been saying this all my life.
Right.
What am I going to say to people? I mean, tell them a lie?
Yeah.
They say, I wanna. I said, I hear you wanna. Everybody wants to, but nobody does.
Yeah.
So here, the vast majority of people who fail in business didn't have to fail in business.
Right.
And it isn't the pandemic. The pandemic is simply another excuse for failing in business. Because hear me,
Yep.
I see retailers, restaurants who are suffering from the pandemic and have figured a way around it.
Right.
They figured a way around it.
Yep.
They figured a way around it. They're already working on their business by figuring a way how to deal with that problem while creating a successful life.
Right.
That's the deal.
We're here in Carlsbad. You've seen we have 4 buildings in our headquarters on our campus. They're all empty. Since March 9th, I've had 250 employees working from home and working from out of state. And we put the systems in place to be able to handle it before the pandemic came. And then when the system came, we adapted. I think the big thing is I look at this, and I'm excited for your new initiative, and I encourage anybody. First of all, start with the book. If you've never read the book, you got to go today and get the book. If you haven't read the book in a while, it's time to pick it up. But I would encourage everybody to go to emythstrategies.com. There's some really cool pieces over there. There's a video that has the who's who of American influence in the last 20 years there. This is good for what ails you. And it's good if you're going to be in small business, you got to make it your business. You got to be about your business. You got to grow, you got to develop, you got to improve, you got to be willing to hear the hard things. You got to be willing to engage in things, whether it be coaching and training, where people tell you things where the gaps are. Because growing towards that stuff and pursuing your vision and your purpose and your mission, that's electrifying.
Yes, but Brian, when you say if you're going to be in business, hear me.
Yeah.
If you're going to be alive.
Yeah.
You understand? I'm not talking about going to work on your business instead of just doing it. I'm talking about going to work on your life. E-Myth is life work. It isn't just business work. Business is the economic side of life,
right?
But it's not the life of life.
Right.
Brian lives a life of life.
Yep.
He speaks to his children about life. Yep. When he spoke about that woman who started that store and she was apologizing for being in business, Brian was giving a life lesson, not a business lesson. And so I just absolutely want to implore you all to hear this. This is life work. Every single person over these years who has taken on E-Myth earnestly has said this endlessly. It transformed my life. It made I think about everything this way now.
Yeah.
So this is really, really critical, and I so appreciate you sharing that, Brian.
No, that's great. And let's do this. I have 5 rapid fire questions we ask all of our guests. But before I get that, I want to get that because that's a little bit about Michael. Let's do this. Let's say there's somebody thinking about starting a small business out there. Let's say there's someone who just started a small business out there, or let's say there's someone who's floundering in their small business out there. What's the best piece of advice you could give them?
Read the E-Myth Revisited, and then do it.
Yeah.
Read the E-Myth Revisited, and then do it.
Yep. Great.
You said it. You carried that book with you essentially in your back pocket for 20 years. You read it once every year, renewing it. Listen to what Brian said. Every great E-Myth entrepreneur has effectively done exactly what Brian just said to you. It's a life's work. And his business reflects his life's work. His life doesn't reflect his business's work. His business reflects his life's work.
True. Very true.
You become that leader in your life.
Yeah. And it's neat. And it's a real treat and a privilege for me today to have you. I have no idea how this took so long to happen, but it's kind of cool to see it in 3D today and have this experience. So let's do this, Michael. We've asked these questions of you name it, we've asked them, and the who's who of everybody. And it's just gives us a little insight into who you are and how you work. First of all, what's the single best piece of advice you've ever been given?
The best single advice I've ever been given is stop thinking like that.
Who gave you that?
I don't even remember.
Wow. Okay. That's great. I love it. Stop thinking like that. Okay. What one talent or gift do you wish you possessed that you currently don't?
You understand, I hear these questions, and I'm so accustomed to getting these questions.
Yeah.
And there is an immediate response and a knee-jerk response. I can give you answers to these questions.
Yeah. No, I like
that. But when you asked it, and the way you ask it, and the reason you're asking it, and who's asking it, causes me to go deep inside as you're asking that question. What is the one skill that I would prefer to have that I've never really developed? And I think that skill is to stay focused on one thing. I'm distracted by many things because I'm a creator.
Of course.
I'm continually creating.
Yep.
And my wife says, stop creating.
Yeah. No.
I'm continually creating the next,
Sure.
next, because I see possibilities in everything.
Right. Yeah.
The one thing is just that.
Yeah.
Staying focused on one thing.
Yeah. I think that's something I've committed myself to, and it's been beneficial for sure. What book has been most instrumental in your life?
Actually, it's a book that I was introduced to about 6 or 7 years ago. It's I Am That. By Sri, S-R-I, Nisargadatta Maharaj.
Whoa.
It wasn't a book he wrote. It was recordings of his sessions in his ashram in Bombay.
Cool.
It's the most significant book, spiritual life book I've ever read.
Interesting. Cool. I have never heard of it. And I love when I hear about a new book. So it'll
blow your mind.
That's great. Okay. You're not a big TV watcher, but let's say you're flipping through the channels and there's this one movie that comes on, and every time it comes on, you stop. What's the one movie you've watched over and over and over again?
There aren't any.
No.
Not
a movie guy?
Well, I watch, but there's no one movie that I have been in love with forever.
Okay. What would be an all-time favorite? What would be one that's like, that was I really.
Oh my God, I can't even think of one, Brian.
Yeah. Okay.
Honest, I am so unmovie.
Okay, that's interesting. Well, because you're also a very creative person, so you're kind of creating your own movie. Last but not least, anything on Michael Gerber's bucket list that he hasn't checked the box on yet, or something you want to do or see, or?
Oh, we're about to create the most significant company in the world. We're about to create the Apple of business development services.
Nice.
Literally the Apple of business development services. I looked up Apple just yesterday morning on Wikipedia. And the only reason I did it is because we were having a conversation about something in our business. And so I just looked up Apple. And you understand, when I said we were founded in 1977, Apple was founded in the very same year.
Nice.
And I wrote my partner this morning, I said, I just checked Apple out on Wikipedia and noted that it is a $2+ trillion valuation.
Nice.
And I said, and Steve Jobs started this company the same day I did. We got a lot of catching up to do.
You got a couple of T's to catch up on.
Yeah, a couple of T's. So we're setting out to create the Apple.
That's great.
Business development services.
And I look forward to meeting your partner. I'm 31 years married with only 6 kids, so I'm only half as productive as him. So I look forward to catching up.
You're gonna love Mark.
That's
Mark's
great.
gonna love you. Yep.
Double my production. Well, listen, this has been a treat. I have no idea, but I also trust God myself to go. Things happen when they should happen. I have no idea why it's taken so long for us to connect like this. But I'm thankful we did. There's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people tuning into this today. And many of them, believe it or not, even though since 1986, the E-Myth Revisited has been the best small business book on the market, there's a whole bunch of folks today it's brand new to. And I'm excited. I'm excited to bring it to them, and I'm excited for them to meet you. And it was a thrill for me to see it in 3D today. We shared a stage 31 years ago in Cleveland, Ohio. And it's taken a long time to reconnect since then. But this has been a treat, the first of many, my friend. Bless you and your family. Thanks for being on the show today. And I encourage everybody, get a copy of the book, and then check out emythstrategies.com. There's some really cool resources. Thanks for being with us today, Michael. This has been a real treat.
My delight, my earnest delight, Brian, and we will see a lot of each other soon.
Very soon. God bless.
Take care. Bye.
Well, thanks for joining us today. I appreciate this. I hope you really enjoyed this. This is Michael Gerber. Through his books and his information has been very influential in my thinking about business and how I've applied myself. And I hope it's the same for you today. Thanks for joining us. And I'm going to leave you with a little Irish blessing from someone who's been the most influential person in my life, that little 90-year-old pocket rocket, my Mother Therese, with an Irish blessing. Until next time, we'll see you then.
May the road rise up to meet you, and may the wind always be at your back. May the rain fall soft upon your fields, and the sun shine warm upon your face. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the hollow of his hand. See you next time.